Welcome to those of you who are watching and to the candidates. Good evening. My name is Michelle Thorcell, and I am the president of the League of Women Voters of Glen Ellyn. I want to thank you for joining us for the College of DuPage Trustee Candidate Forum. The forum tonight is virtual, and we ask that candidates and viewers eliminate distractions and give their forum their undivided attention as they would for any in-person event. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization. We encourage the informed and active participation of citizens in government. The League works to increase understanding of major public policy issues and influences public policy through education and advocacy. Our moderator this evening is Barbara Young, and she is a member of the League of Women Voters of the LaGrange area. She is a partner in Chicago law firm of Golan Christie Taglia, where she practices in the area of business, law, bankruptcy, and commercial litigation. And Barbara is also active as a member of many women's rights organizations. Welcome, Barbara, and thank you so much for moderating this forum.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Good evening and happy first day of spring to everyone. It's an honor for me to be moderating today's candidates forum. All the candidates on the ballot were invited to participate, and we're fortunate to have all three of the candidates joining us this evening. I would like to begin by reviewing some of the League's ground rules for a candidates forum. All candidates attending tonight have signed and returned the ground rules. These rules specify the format, time limits, and other rules related to the conducting of the forum. I will be responsible for enforcing these rules. The candidates will begin in alphabetical order with their opening statements. They will alternate the order in which they answer questions. And after the question and answer portion of the forum, each candidate will be able to give a closing statement. Each candidate will have 90 seconds for their opening statement, 90 seconds to respond to each question unless I specify otherwise, and 1 minute for their closing statement. Their responses will be timed, as you will see on the screen. The questions have been gathered in advance from the public. A panel of experienced members of the League of Women Voters has reviewed the questions submitted and carefully screened them for appropriateness for office and to avoid duplication. Webinar participants may pose questions in the Q&A tab on the Zoom screen, and our question team will evaluate those questions for duplication and appropriateness. And as time permits, we may ask the candidates those questions. The format tonight is a candidate forum, not a debate. Candidates are expected to accurately represent the facts. The League of Women Voters is not responsible for the accuracy of statements made by the candidates. It is the responsibility of the public, news media, opposing candidates, etc., to fact check statements made by candidates if deemed necessary. This forum is being offered as a service to the voters, so they can hear directly from the candidates regarding their views on key issues and qualifications. To be of best service to the voters, candidates' responses are to reflect their own views and opinions and to refrain from commenting on the views of the other candidates. The event today is being recorded. The League claims copyright ownership of any recording or transcript produced of the forum. The forum will be posted in its entirety on the host League's website, social media platforms, and the Illinois Voter Guide. Any other use of the forum recording requires the express written approval of the League. Audio and video must be broadcast unedited and in its entirety, except by media reporting on the event. Finally, I want to emphasize how grateful we are to the candidates who are not only willing to serve in office, but who have agreed to come here this evening. I'm now going to ask the candidates to unmute themselves and turn on their video cameras. Great. Welcome. And we'll now begin with opening statements. And our first candidate this evening is Haroon Atcha. Candidate Atcha, your opening statement, please.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Haroon Atcha, and I'm running for the College of DuPage Board of Trustees. And first, let me thank the League of Women Voters of Glen Ellyn for hosting this wonderful event. It's a great opportunity to reach out to voters. You know, I've spent the better part of my career working hard to make community colleges better. When I was a student at COD over 10 years ago now, I was highly active as a student advocate, making sure that student needs and concerns were heard, not just by instructors and administrators, but as by the board as well. After that, I went on to teach at a community college, teaching political science and statistics, and I really got to see what a community college's student body looks like and what they need, what unique struggles they face to success. And in the classroom, I worked hard to make sure that they could overcome those barriers. I've also worked as a researcher at a community college where it was my job to find policies that at that macro level can help our students overcome the barriers that they face to success. So throughout the course of my career, I've seen in the classroom and outside of the classroom how we can best serve all of the students in our community. I'd like the opportunity to serve on the board because I'd like to continue on that work. And I believe that experience, specifically at community colleges, can be a really big asset to COD. Thanks.
Thank you. And the second candidate we'll hear from tonight with her opening statement is candidate Fenne.
Hi, my name is Christine Fenne, and I also would like to thank the League of Women Voters for coordinating tonight's candidate forum. As I stated, my name is Christine Fenne, and I am running for re-election for the College of DuPage Board of Trustees. I am a Wheaton resident, married to Craig Fenne, with 2 children. Carson is 18, a senior on his own college journey, and Kayla is 15, a sophomore, both at Wheaton Warrenville South. I have many connections to the College of DuPage. I grew up right down the street from the college, and COD was my library growing up. I was a member of the DuPage Chorale with Lee Kesselman. My husband is a COD graduate, and my nephew is a COD graduate. I work in our family business as a sales representative. My board experience includes the Wheaton Public Library since 2012, the Wheaton Chamber of Commerce Board since 2019, and the Wheaton Leadership Prayer Breakfast Committee since 2016. In my spare time, I volunteer with my daughter's dance studio, run the neighborhood garage sale twice a year, and I have 2 pets, Cheerio and Winnie, rabbits. Thank you.
All right, we'll get our opening statement from our third candidate, Andrew Manno.
Thank you, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for putting this on. I first entered this race with one sole focus in mind, and that was the students. Student success is of the utmost importance and should be the priority for every board member. We've seen over the past few years, enrollment and retention rates continue to decline at the College of DuPage. If you go any block in DuPage County, part of Cook, part of Will, really District 502 for College of DuPage, you're going to find someone that has either gone to the College of DuPage or knows someone that has gone to the College of DuPage. And that's the strength and stability that the College of DuPage has in the community. And I want to make sure that that stability and that foundation that the College of DuPage has had on the community stays. I'm an attorney, and I currently serve on the audit committee for the College of DuPage, as well as being on the board of directors for NAMI DuPage, focusing on mental illness and getting resources and really taking away the stigma of mental illness in the community. I think those aspects make me the ideal candidate to serve on the board and make sure that students are the focus and make sure to put the community back into the community college.
Okay, now we're going to begin the question and answer portion of the forum. We're going to begin with candidate Fenne. And the first question is kind of 2 parts. First, what qualifications in a board of trustee member is most important for the next 6-year term? And secondly, what qualifications do you bring to serve on the College of DuPage board?
Thank you. So I think the qualifications that best serve on a board are people who are willing to collaborate and listen to each other. Also, those who want to learn more about the issues. I think that there is a lot of that sorry, let me just collect my thoughts. So the qualifications that are most important are a passion for education and the ability to communicate strongly, your skills and abilities with the other board members, to provide oversight and understand the issues that are coming before the board, to participate fully on the committees as well as within the associations that the trustees are involved in, and to take all of that information in your background and apply it to the issues at hand. So understanding the budget and financing is very important. My experience on the Wheaton Public Library Board, I have understood how city and government budgets work and how they apply that to the community college. Thank you.
Okay, candidate Manno, same question. Do you need it reread?
No, I think I have it written down here. So I think the qualifications that are necessary for any good board member is first and foremost the ability to critically think, facing problems head on and knowing how to figure out the solutions for those problems. Particularly when you're on the board, you have to work with your other board members, but you're not in isolation. And I think that's the important aspect is when you're on the board, you want to work with everyone to make sure you're getting all the information and finding solutions in a collective environment so that it is not one sole board member putting forth an action item on the agenda and trying to solve the problem by themselves. It can't happen that way. Certainly, good solutions are not solved that way. And I've been doing that my entire career as an attorney, is finding solutions to problems, working collaboratively with people that are against you, people that are working with you as your client. So in all those types of environments, I've been successful in doing that. I think another important aspect of being a board member is having the pulse of the community and the pulse of the students. I served as student body president in my undergrad institution, knowing behind the scenes of what happens with student involvement and their interaction with the administration, being a community member, certainly serving on the board of directors of NAMI DuPage. Those are all key aspects that I can bring to the table, and I think that board members should have if they are to serve.
Okay, and our third candidate, candidate Atcha, same question.
Thank you. I think the most important qualification that a trustee can have is probably experience. The problems that trustees are elected to solve are complex, but luckily we have a lot of research and knowledge about the way that these problems present themselves. So I think having that on-the-ground experience in the classroom and outside of the classroom, that administrative experience, really goes a long way to giving you a bird's eye view about how to tackle some of these more seemingly intractable problems. I think one of the other things that's really necessary in a trustee are deep analytical skills. So month after month, the Board of Trustees is presented with a lot of complex data. They have to interpret various trends, and they have to synthesize all of this information to make good, responsible decisions. So I believe I bring these skills, or I would bring these skills to the board. I've worked and I've taught inside the classroom as an instructor of political science and statistics. I've worked as a researcher at a large community college, roughly the same size at COD. And most importantly, I work as a data scientist currently for a large Fortune 500 company, and I've worked for several large companies as a data scientist, where it's my job day in, day out to take a lot of information, to synthesize it, and to present solutions to the problems we're trying to tackle.
Okay. Now we're going to move to question 2, beginning with candidate Manno. What is one current challenge and opportunity College of DuPage has, and what will you do to address it?
Well, first and foremost, I think the one challenge or the most important, most critical issue facing the College of DuPage is enrollment. As I said in my opening statement, enrollment continues to decline at the College of DuPage, although with this past semester, we did see an uptick in enrollment, which is a good sign, but we need to get those numbers back up. If you look at other institutions in Illinois, while it is a national trend that enrollment declines, there are institutions that have been able to buck that trend and see enrollment rise. College of DuPage needs to be at the forefront of that issue. And I think that is where the benefit of having a board member that can be forward thinking and optimistic to try and raise that level of enrollment at the College of DuPage can really be the shining light for other institutions in terms of best practices and how to get students into the College of DuPage. And once you get them in the College of DuPage, make sure they're staying there and completing their degree, which is the other issue is that College of DuPage is currently facing is the retention rate. And they really go hand in hand. But in order to solve that, we need to extend out to those communities that for far too long we've been neglecting, and making sure to extend that hand to say, you belong here and we welcome you here. And then don't forget them. Make sure that you're there with them every step of the way.
All right, and at the same question, what do you see as one current challenge or opportunity, and how would you address it?
Thanks. I think one of the biggest challenges that not only COD, but essentially every other institution of higher education is facing right now are equity gaps. And this is really most evident when we talk about differing completion rates. So for example, at COD, roughly 28% of COD's white students complete a degree within 3 years, while only 13% of its Black students do. About 45% of COD's full-time Black students drop out within 3 years. I think those numbers are pretty unacceptable. And to COD's credit, there's been a lot of attention spent on reducing these gaps, but I think that's going to continue to be one of the biggest challenges that we face going forward. Now, it's my opinion that many of these gaps stem from material causes. That is, students find it difficult to afford textbooks. They can't pay for tuition. They don't have the money to see a mental health professional. And these deficiencies of material wealth manifest themselves in lower completion rates across different groups. I think one of the biggest opportunities that we have to not only address that problem, but in general, is to really expand some of the wonderful proven programs that COD has undertaken in the last several years. The one that immediately springs to mind is Open Education Resources, which are low or no cost textbooks and other instructional materials. That's been a large program. I would love to see it expanded even more to make college more accessible for all of our students.
All right, and lastly, candidate Fenne, what are your thoughts on one challenge or opportunity facing the college?
Yes, thank you. Similarly to the other candidates, I would indicate that persistence from semester to semester is a challenge. As Andrew mentioned, the retention rate, and Haroon mentioned the completion rate. If we can continue to get students to persist and attend from semester to semester, they would more likely complete their degree. Ways that we can help do that are to have advisors who would touch base with the students at different points throughout their semester to make sure things are on track, find out if they're struggling in certain areas, and to make sure that they're re-registering before the end of the semester to continue their education. We've begun some work in this at the college with the Pathways program to make sure that students understand what the next step is in completing their degree. making sure that they have the correct list of courses so they don't get off track. And we've also had to support them in that effort to hire navigators, which help them navigate the community college pathway for which they're on so that they can succeed with completing their degree or certificate. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the third question and beginning with candidate Atcha. You've touched on this a little bit, but what policies or practices would you institute, keep, or change to ensure inclusive and equitable classrooms at the College of DuPage?
I would absolutely keep and expand programs like open education resources that make college more materially accessible. I'd also look into programs that address the root causes of students stopping out or not taking as many classes as they'd like. Students who attend community colleges make very difficult financial choices. That is one of the characteristics that differentiates them from students who attend four-year universities and take out large amounts of loans, for example. Our students daily make the choice whether they want to work and earn wages or whether they can afford to go to college. And so anything we can do to make that choice easier for them is absolutely something I would support. For example, I think the college needs to do a better job of ensuring that our students have safe and reliable transportation to COD. Now, if you try to get to COD from where I used to live when I was a student in Hanover Park, at the intersection of Lake Street and Gary Avenue, it would take you about 3.5 hours. That would include a 40-minute walk, 4 different buses, and a train. I don't think that that's a reasonable commute to ask of our students. And I think the college can be doing more, including things like partnering with local municipalities to reduce that commute and make the college physically accessible to students everywhere in our district.
Okay, candidate Fenne, what would you do to ensure inclusive and equitable classrooms?
Yes, thank you for that question. I would communicate the supports that we do have for students better. It shouldn't be hard to find, where you can get tutoring, where you can find these supports, where's the fuel pantry. These things need to be better communicated so that students and families don't have to struggle, and that we can let them know the services that we already have and that we will be adding, to make their educational experience better.
Okay, candidate Manno, same question.
So I think one of the major policies, kind of as Haroon alluded to, is the barriers to education as a whole. The financial issues that students face in terms of taking out large loans or trying to pay for their educational future by themselves is quite the burden, even at the community college level. It's more burdensome when you don't know the true costs of education. And that's why I'm a proponent of being very transparent in terms of what costs are going to be associated with education. I've put forward a plan that upfront, if you have a flat fee that is proposed to the student to say, if you want to complete this program, you want to complete this degree or get this certification, here are the courses that you need to take. And here's the total amount from start to completion of what it was going to cost you to achieve that certificate or that degree. And then they can sign up for that program and then lock in that pricing so that immediately upon signing in, they know how much it's going to cost and they can plan accordingly. And moving it a step further, if they can lock in that price and pay for it up front, they no longer have the uncertainty of having to think about semester to semester or year to year. Am I going to be able to afford this the following year? You could have a good year your first semester, but the next semester you may not have that money available, and that's what leads to dropping out. So that's what I would put forward in terms of closing that financial barrier and helping more students come in.
All right, next question, beginning with candidate Fenne. How will you foster honest engagement with the board including the board's standing committee structure and other constituencies at the college.
Yes, thank you. In order to foster better relations with the college community, we could be using our committee of the whole. We haven't engaged the committee of the whole since we did a presidential search about 3 years ago. That would be a great way to bring everyone together and engage the community all at once. In addition, I think that having a listening tour or a tool to reach out to the students. I think there's a lot of surveying that goes on, and I think it might be time to have some in-person or Zoom type collaboration with the students to find out what are the true issues and how can we help them resolve those issues. This could work well also with faculty groups and other classified staff that work at the college. So I think that coming together with these large groups with the board could really foster better relations. And I look forward to the opportunity to bring our community together. In terms of working with the board, I think that, during the board meetings, there is some time to be collaborative and have discussions, but it seems limited. And so I would increase the number of retreats that we have and time to discuss the bigger issues. Thank you.
Okay, Candidate Manno, your thoughts on this?
Can you repeat the question?
Absolutely. How will you foster honest engagement with the board, including the board's standing committee structure and other constituencies at the college?
So I think a solution or a major problem, I'll start there. A major problem with the current board is the outreach. It seems to be lacking. There is regular board meetings in which the public can be involved in discussion points and agenda items that are being put forward. But in my view, there should be more opportunities for members of the public to engage the board and be interactive instead of waiting month to month or sometimes 2 months to, whenever the next board meeting is scheduled to. Open lines of communication, such as just a simple chat box that can be put forward on College of DuPage's website to say, interact with a board member, and automatically be able to put forward your ideas that you're, as a member of the public, that you're seeing in the community that you want to see the College of DuPage solve or put forward. The current standing committees, I think, are very beneficial, though. I'm on one of them, the audit committee. The audit committee has certain trustees on the audit committee, as well as members of the public. I think members of the public don't necessarily know that there can be opportunities for them to serve on these standing committees. So it's about greater transparency and greater outreach to the community, because once you get the community fully involved in the college, that's really how the college flourishes. And that's how it should be, as a community college.
Okay, and Candidate Atcha, your thoughts?
Could I ask you again to repeat the question, please?
Sure, no problem. How will you foster honest engagement with the board, including the board's standing committee structure with other constituencies at the college?
I think there's probably two important constituencies that we can talk about at COD. Those are internal constituents and external constituents. Often when I go to board meetings, and in the past 2 years, I've gone to almost all but one of them, I'm the only person speaking at public comment. I think that's kind of indicative of a board that doesn't have too many connections to its external constituency, to the broader public in DuPage County. Now, to the board's credit, there are a lot of board members who have wonderful connections and serve on various other civic organizations. I think we really need to do a better job of modeling ourselves off of some other more successful boards and doing things like coffee with the board, making a more informal time for our external constituents to get to know us. As for internal constituents, I think it's worth saying that relationships aren't built overnight. So any relationship that a member of the Board of Trustees builds happens over time, and it's on the basis of continued trust. So when we talk about our committees, and I serve on the Student Success Committee, when we talk about our committees, those, I believe, and our other internal stakeholders, those are really there so that we can build long-term relationships and understand and address these difficult problems together. So I would absolutely encourage more open, long-term communication between our internal and external stakeholders.
Okay. Next question, and I'm going to hop over to a couple of the questions that are coming from the participants. And this one I'm going to limit to about 15 seconds. And we're going to begin with candidate Manno. It's very quick. How many board meetings have you attended in person over the last year?
For the last year, I would say just a handful, about 2, but as I said, I'm on the audit committee, so I've made every single one of those meetings in person.
Okay, candidate Atcha, same question.
In person, all but 2 over the last 18 months.
Okay, and candidate Fenne?
Yes, I have been at all the board meetings and retreats and committee meetings. I think in my lifetime of meetings since 2017, I missed 1 retreat and 1 meeting.
Okay. And next question, and we're going to begin with candidate Atcha. This one's kind of interesting. So what is your view on making cost-free tuition for in-district high school graduates?
That's a terrific question, and I think that's an initiative that has been implemented around the country at a number of community colleges. I do believe in the most recent governor's budget proposal, there was an opportunity to increase MAP grants so that students who come from families at or below the median income would get free community college. I think that's a step in the right direction. And I also believe that COD in its history used to do a number of programs that essentially accomplished this. So I believe I went to COD about 10 years ago, and frankly, it was a second chance for me. I was not a good high school student, and COD was my only option. As I grew older, I grew to be not so ashamed of that, because a lot of students who go to COD are in that same circumstance. And so I absolutely support these programs, because when a student decides that they are ready for public education, they all at once remove so many barriers that stem from money and help students attend community colleges. I believe community colleges are for everyone. Our student bodies look like our communities. And from a civic perspective, that is an amazing thing. I believe everyone in our community should be encouraged to go to college, and free tuition for in-district students is absolutely the best way to accomplish that.
Okay, and candidate Fenne, do you have an opinion on making cost-free tuition for in-district high school graduates?
As a parent of a student who is currently looking at higher education for his future, it is very expensive to go to college. And our College of DuPage offers a great tuition rate. However, having free tuition would really help a lot of families. We have a large percentage of families in DuPage County that are below the poverty level, and there should be free tuition for families in significant need and students who are at risk. So I would support a free tuition program. It would be interesting to see how we can, accommodate that budget-wise. Currently, the taxpayers support 50% of the college's budget. Student tuition is about 30 or 40%, and the state is currently around 10 or 15%. So it's not quite an even three-legged stool. We do look forward to the increase in state funding. So we'll see how that plays out in this next budget. But I do see a need for free tuition for more students. Thank you.
Okay, candidate Manno, do you have a position on this?
I think any assistance that you provide students is a great idea. You always want to provide an open door for those that are seeking educational opportunities, whether it's a degree, whether it's a certification, whether it's just wanting to learn more about a particular subject. You should never have closed doors to students that want to fulfill their educational needs. With that being said, there comes a cost with that of trying to figure out how we are to make sure those doors are open to those that need it. I think greater scholarship programs, opportunities that College of DuPage can offer students, but I would say across the board, free tuition for in-district students. It sounds like a great idea, but again, you have to critically think this, and it would require a lot more information. But I don't support passing the buck on to the taxpayer of increasing their property taxes by what would have to be an exorbitant amount percentage-wise in their property tax bill. If we can offset that in terms of providing assistance to students and finding ways to look at the budget and provide more opportunities for students, I'm in favor of that. But across the board, free in-state tuition, at this point, I'm not in favor of that.
Okay, next question, and we're going to begin with candidate Fenne. Please speak about learning recovery efforts created by COVID-19 for students at the College of DuPage.
Thank you. So I understand that there has been students who have had reduced learning because of the COVID pandemic. I think that a lot of what College of DuPage has done in terms of this has started even before the pandemic. We have worked to eliminate remedial math and language arts and writing courses to try and help the high school students understand that they do have the ability to learn math at a college level, and they can gain the right skills to be successful in college. And so those, we started at York High School, I believe, to incorporate college math in their high school math so that when they came to College of DuPage to apply, they don't need to take the remedial math courses. And then on the writing side, currently many of our English classes already incorporate the supports that students who might be more challenged with writing to have those supports while they're in that classroom, so they can enter in to a credit-bearing class and be successful. Thank you.
Candidate Manno.
So I think there was a lot to learn over the past 2 years plus, really, in the pandemic in terms of education and how students learn and how it affects them, whether in person, virtual, and it goes across the board in all areas of not only higher learning, but grade school and high school levels. So taking what we have learned in terms of how students respond to different learning methods, whether some do learn much better in a virtual environment versus an in-person environment. I think providing additional resources to faculty members, to the teachers that are on the ground and in the battlefield, so to speak, and trying to make sure that their students are not only learning at the level that they want them to learn at, but making sure that those that may have fallen behind are able to catch up and meet the needs of the class, whether that's additional counseling that the College of DuPage can provide, additional mental health support, and additional resources for the teachers to provide greater expansion in their programs and greater ability to interact with their students. And that's the biggest thing that I think needs to be focused on, is that interaction and that connection that teachers can have with their students.
Candidate Atcha?
Could I ask you to repeat the question, please?
Absolutely. Please speak about learning recovery efforts created by COVID-19 for students at the College of DuPage.
You know, learning loss is a really interesting topic, especially in the context of community colleges, because relative to high school, for example, we have our students for a much shorter period of time. So when you talk about 2.5, maybe 3 years, compared to the 4 full years that high school students are in high school, you really don't get to see the effects of a big, essentially disaster like COVID until they reach their upper level courses. So I would say that on its face, this is kind of a really dangerous problem that tends to go underappreciated because we might not follow our students all the way through to their transfer location, follow up with them and ask, how are you doing right now? Right? Students who were in the classroom in 2020, and I taught in 2020, and I worked as a researcher at a community college in 2020. So I saw firsthand just how disruptive that change was. I think some of the things that we really need to do to make sure that we recover those learning losses is to provide those wraparound services that make learning possible. And I'd really emphasize mental health care here. COD currently employs only 2 full-time mental health counselors. It is a campus of about 20,000 full-time students. And so, you know, if we're perfectly successful in reducing that stigma of seeking mental health care help, are the resources there for our students to get it? So we need to make sure those resources and wraparound services are absolutely robust, and that will help tackle the learning loss that we've experienced over the last few years.
Okay, next question, and I'm going to begin with candidate Manno. If there are cuts or adjustments to the budget, where would you look first and why?
Well, I think looking at cuts in the budget, you don't want to go there first. I think a lot of College of DuPage's problems can be solved by having greater enrollment and having an increase in enrollment and retention rates. The more students that come into the College of DuPage and the more students that stay at the College of DuPage and complete their degree and certificate program, the more income the College of DuPage is going to have because there's more students paying tuition. There's more income, and so you don't have to look at cuts. But if it comes down to looking at the budget and cutting things, I would look to cut those areas that do not have a direct effect on the students. The students should always be the focus. So if it is going to assist the student in the classroom, that is safe. If it doesn't, if it's just something visual or something that is cosmetic of the building, or if it's something that has nothing to do with inside the classroom, that should be the first to be cut. But the student should always be the focus. Their educational needs should come first, and that's where my priorities will be.
Candidate Atcha?
Thanks. I think when we look at budget cuts, if it comes to that, then we need to prioritize them in such a way that there's the least amount of disruption to students as possible. And I would identify 2 specific places where I would look to first. The first would be capital expenditures. I think COD is still winding down from a period of pretty high levels of development. When I was a student there, the last of the temporary buildings were knocked down. That's where I took some of my first courses, so it was heartbreaking to see them go, but they were about 30 years old at that point. A lot of COD's campus is still very new. It's state of the art, and frankly, it's a gorgeous campus. So if I had to look for budget cuts, I would probably first look to cut capital expenditure. The second thing I would probably look for is the advertising budget. You know, despite declines in enrollment, COD pulls in an enormous number of in-district students. And I'm highly skeptical that $1 million marketing budget is going to marginally increase that number to a significant extent that it actually benefits the budget. So I would say capital expenditure is probably the first place I would look. I think COD's advertising budget is also quite large and is probably an easy place to start cutting next. But above all, we need to minimize the disruption to student services.
Okay, and last, candidate Fenne, where would you look to make adjustments in the budget?
Thank you. Similarly to the other candidates here, I would first make sure that faculty and students have what they need to succeed, as well as to make sure that the staff has what they need to serve the students and faculty. Budget cuts are not a friendly discussion, and nobody wants to hear about that. So I think that there are a couple different areas that we could consider. I think that capital expenses like repairs and facilities management still need to have consideration, because we do need to care for the buildings that we do have. But maybe interior remodel projects and expanding further in the campus are probably things that would need to be put on the back burner until there was budget funding for that. And so those are the areas that I would consider. And I think that, you know, hiring is definitely not an area to look at for budget cuts currently. We have a lot of interim positions that need to be filled. And, you know, we're looking to expand on student advising and mental health counseling. So those are some areas that I would not consider for cuts. Thank you.
Okay, next question, beginning with candidate Atcha. And again, this is one that came from the public. The question is, would you allow for the carrying of guns on campus? Scary thought. And 2, what's your position on banning the teaching of Black history, CRT?
You know, I think you attend college for a critical education, and often that education can be uncomfortable and it can challenge us. But as a society, a truthful accounting and a difficult accounting of our history is important to make sure that we grow into critical, empathetic citizens who understand our past so that we can build a better future for ourselves going forward. I believe that the syllabus and curriculum are the purview of faculty, and especially at COD, everyone who teaches a class at COD is an expert in their field. They have a master's degree or a PhD in that field, and so what they choose to teach when they teach history, I believe should be left to the historians. So on that, that's my opinion on that. As far as carrying guns on campus, above all, a college needs to be a safe place for students. If we are worried, I mean, I'm of an age that I can still remember, and countless things have happened since then, but my wife went to Northern Illinois University, and there is a reason that that college's motto is forward, together, forward. I came out of a heartbreaking scenario there, and I do not want to see that at COD. And I think any scenario or situation in which, you know, guns are floating around in the environment, a mass number of them, is not a safe environment, and it is not an environment in which people can truthfully and honestly engage in difficult ideas.
Okay, same questions, candidate Fenne.
Thank you. So the question was, would we allow
allowing for the carrying of guns on campus and banning the teaching of Black history?
So at this time, I believe the only ones carrying guns on campus might be our own College of DuPage Police Department. And I know we do have the Homeland Security where we teach the police officers of the future. And there is a gun range there. But I don't believe that the rest of the campus allows for guns in public settings. And I would agree that we should keep the college as safe as possible and to not have guns where they're not supposed to be, which is the classrooms. And in terms of banning Black history, that's not something that I support. I believe that the faculty has the right to own their own curriculum and teach history the way they want to teach it. It's I wouldn't ban anything about how we need to discuss these issues from the past and understand what happened so that we don't repeat it and that we can learn to live together in a better, more free environment. Thank you.
Same question, candidate Manno.
So in the college environment, it's all about really student choice. If a student wants to learn about Black history, there's courses about Black history. If the student wants to learn about science, biology, climate change, any of these other issues, I believe courses should be made available to them that would assist them in bettering their understanding of history or that specific subject matter and pushing them forward in their educational pursuits. CRT is really an issue that is really being brought up in the grade school and high school levels. So it doesn't really affect community colleges that much. So again, it's about the student's choice. They can pick whatever courses they want to pick in terms of pursuing their educational needs. And as a board member, it is my belief board members should not be involved in the faculty's rubrics or in how they are going to actually teach their classes. They certainly should be teaching the subjects they're assigned to teach and not divert from that. So I don't think that's really an issue, and I have no objections to students learning about Black history or which is American history. In terms of guns in the classrooms, the current law is that that students cannot carry guns in the classroom, and board members do not make policy for Illinois. So that's not going to be an issue.
I got to cut you there, but
Yep.
Understood. Okay, and now we're going to move to our very last question, and I'm going to begin with candidate Fenne, and that is, what is your vision for the College of DuPage for the next 10 years?
Terrific. Thank you. 10 years. It seems like a really long time, but it was just 7 years ago that I was running for election the first time. There are a lot of topics that we could cover for over 10 years. We were recently reading a book called The Great Upheaval, which is about the future of higher education. And there were a lot of different topics to consider. And there were no answers, but just good discussion. Some of the topics that we discussed were, how do semesters continue? Should we have on-demand classes where students can register at any time and start their college degree, not have to wait till August or September or January? So those are kind of things that higher education is talking about now. But I see College of DuPage doing very well in the future, and that we are a community college that is well positioned to help the community build a better workforce. It's a symbiotic relationship between the community and the college. The college educates people who then go out into the community to work and fill gaps in employment for local businesses. And thank you.
And candidate Manno. what is your vision for the next 10 years for the college?
My vision for the College of DuPage in the next 10 years is to have a college where their classrooms are fully filled with students, that courses are able to be held because they have students that are registering for them. I see a College of DuPage that has high enrollment and probably more importantly, high retention rates of keeping students at the College of DuPage. College of DuPage in its long history has in many respects been the beacon of hope for many community colleges, the community college that everyone looked to as being the staple in a community and being something to live up to. And I think over the many years in the history of College of DuPage, somewhere we lost that. And I think we need to get back on track and continue to be that beacon and be that shining example of what community colleges can really be. And that is with filled classrooms and teaching great or having a great learning experience, making sure that students meet and achieve their goals that they wanted to achieve the moment they step foot in the College of DuPage. That is providing additional resources to faculty members and making sure, again, that there's that helping hand that's extended out to them and saying you belong, and not only you belong, but we're going to guide you along this path and get you across that finish line.
Okay, and candidate Atcha, your view for the next 10 years for the college?
I'd really like to see COD become an institution that serves everyone in the community. Now, unfortunately, COD isn't alone in this, but we're not quite there yet. I mentioned this before, but about 28% of COD's white students complete a degree in 3 years, while only 13% of its Black students do. In 10 years, I'd like that gap to be gone, and I'd like us to eliminate gaps that exist in other areas and between other groups of students, our poor and our wealthy students, our students who are first or continuing generation. I want to see COD become an institution that lives up to that promise that we make as a society to high school seniors, or to returning students, or to single parents who are coming back to college after 10 or 20 years. And it is that promise that if you decide for yourself that you are ready for higher education, if you put in a good effort, if you set your mind to it, then you should be able to build a better life for yourself. So in 10 years, I'd like to see a community college, a COD, that embodies that promise, that helps students to get to where they want to be, and a college that serves everyone in its community.
Okay, now we're going to move into the closing statements. We've got just 3 minutes, so please keep your remarks to 1 minute. And we're going to begin with candidate Manno.
Thank you again to the League of the Women Voters for putting this on. It's been a great experience. And Barbara, thank you for being a great moderator. As I said at the outset, my candidacy has and always will be student focused. At the end of the day, a board member's sole focus and job should be making sure that the students that enter the College of DuPage stay at the College of DuPage and meet and achieve their goals and getting them across the finish line. That will always be my focus. I am the candidate that will ensure that each board member has that mindset and maintains that mindset for whatever problems they face. As an attorney, we face complicated subject matters. We deal with a variety of different clients, and we have to deal with those problems on each and every day. As a member of the audit committee, I know the inner workings of the College of DuPage and the issues that they are facing, and I'm confident that I will be able to face them head on. So I would appreciate your support and hope for your vote.
Thank you. And candidate Atcha, your closing statement.
You know, on or before April 4th, everyone in this forum has the opportunity to choose between experience and moving the college forward or not, to choose the candidates or candidate who has the experience of addressing these difficult, complex problems, who has in-classroom experience, who has published as a researcher on these topics, and who has been an advocate for the better part of 3 years. I've worked the better part of my career and the better part of my adult life working to make community colleges better as a private citizen, as a community college student myself, and then as an employee inside the classroom and outside the classroom. So on or before April 4th, when you get that ballot, vote for experience. And I hope you'll vote for Haroon Atcha for College of DuPage Board of Trustees. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last word comes from candidate Fenne.
Thank you very much to the League of Women Voters for allowing us to address the community and share more about the College of DuPage Board of Trustees. This role is not a stepping stone for me. I care passionately about the college, its students, faculty, and administrators. College of DuPage deserves consistent, positive leadership on the Board of Trustees. My experience on the board has provided me with a greater understanding of the college, which provides stability and impact for the college. Since my initial election in 2017, I have been an executive member of the board, serving as secretary, vice chairman, and interim chairman. I am a hardworking trustee who has served on the Presidential Search Committee, liaison to the Strategic Long-Range Plan Committee, many other committees. I have led board meetings and retreat meetings in the chairman's absence, and I have earned the respect of the administration, faculty, and my fellow trustees as a positive and collaborative leader. I look forward to working together with the trustees and the entire College of DuPage community to implement improvements that increase student success and develop a positive organizational culture. Thank you.
That concludes our forum. I want to begin by thanking the candidates and asking them to mute and to turn off their video at this time. Again, thank you so much for participating. I also want to thank those of you that attended. We appreciate your participation, and we would encourage you to remind your neighbors and friends that this forum has been recorded and that they have the opportunity to view it in advance of the election. Please vote. Your participation in the voting process is absolutely essential. You can go to the IllinoisVoterGuide.org, which is powered by the League of Women Voters of Illinois, or the League of Women Voters of Glen Ellyn's website to view this recording. I want to thank you all and wish you a good night.